Okay, with that, let's
I
start.
have a question about the project. I know that I've talked to you before about the cost, and my concerns were about the one portion of the meeting that dealt with the floodplain issues.
Yes.
And I talked to you specifically in the past about modifying the plan and going after a grant that would effectively buy back properties of those who are in the floodplain, and ask if you were able to still provide the services that you're planning to, but not include areas that were flooded and that were flooding or affected in that way. Is that something that can be done to modify the plan? Because it's very costly, and the quality of life there with the flooding problem that is just something that I think that we should consider. And I know you just disagreed with it, and I don't think I've talked to the rest of the commissioners about it, but there is the ability to go after grants so that you can buy back those properties for people who are, even if you give them perfect water, perfect sewer, they're still going to experience flooding.
Yeah.
We actually,
I'm talking to the engineer. I'd like to respond.
Yeah, Commissioner, on that, there are some homes down there that are in what's called the floodways compared to the floodplain. Just about all of them are in the floodplain. And even if we were to pick out those homes that are in the actual floodway and try to do that, you know, what you are describing here is trying to buy back their properties. We still, in order to put the grid out there for the collection system, we're still going to have to go past those properties. I don't see, if we were to go out and, you know, buy up some of the properties, it's still not going to affect the overall design of the collection system itself.
Who's designing it? In-house?
Burgess and Nyepel.
Have you talked to them about options? I mean, if they're designing it, but you're telling me that you can't do it that way, who's designing it, you or them, you know?
Well, Burgess and Nyepel is, and it's based on picking up all the properties that are within the limits of the consent decree.
Okay.
So in order to pick those up, we are going to have to go past some of those properties that are in the floodway itself. Now, there was an issue brought up by TJ from the Planning Commission at this meeting regarding these homes in the floodway. And right now, there's 3 identified, but he said there's possibly up to 200 out there, which is unfortunate. But I don't see any way that we can, how that's going to affect our design, because I still have to go past these houses to get to the other ones. Worst case scenario is that we're only going to have 450 property owners contributing on the payment of the long-term debt with the capital charges compared to 650. We may lose a third of our the customer base.
I don't think that's.
That's the worst case scenario, very worst case
But
scenario.
I don't think that's the
I
way
don't think that's going to happen.
TJ explained that.
Yes.
That's a completely different situation there. That's something
Yes.
we're gonna have to deal with TJ and FEMA.
Yes.
Now, actually, in the past, FEMA did offer to buy some of those homes from some of those citizens. I believe that was about 10 years ago when we had the 50-year reign, and they refused. They were willing to buy them a home in a better location, build a home for them. They refused. But TJ is working on that also. FEMA's willing to relocate some of these people.
Okay.
But
And if
we don't
that's
have all the
case-
details on
yeah,
it right
if
now.
that's the case, if they were to do them all, we lose 200 of the customers.
Yeah, but I don't see
But
that.
I don't see that being getting that.
And the way that works here,
How's that going to affect the cost to lose 200 customers?
Well, we may have to turn it into 4 phases instead of 3 in order to keep the capital charge down.
I think we gotta
That's
work
what I
with-
see from that.
we have to work with
Yeah,
TJ.
we've
The
we've
way
we've hired an attorney, we've had an executive session on this. Ms. Frenchko was not at that executive session. We've discussed it in the executive session. I suggest you contact our attorney that we've obtained, and we're working through that right now.
Yeah, that was the executive session that I called in, and our staff dropped the ball on patching me in.
No,
So
that
I
that
don't
was the
I
one
don't
where
appreciate-
Governor DeWine's
Ms.
press.
And I was
Frenchko,
on,
just
and I
stop.
had, and I was
Just
on the phone
stop.
called in,
and they
Just
gave me the
stop.
wrong.
I'm just telling you, you weren't here.
Okay,
so.
but at any rate, this has nothing to do with that, Commissioner. I don't know if you're familiar with the
Yes,
grant
it does.
program
It
where
has
they
everything
actually.
to do with it. It has
This-
everything to
this-
do with it.
this
Please.
project
I
costs-
don't want to engage you. I don't want to argue with you.
The project costs much more than it could if we were to actually address some of the needs there by relocating people who don't necessarily.
As Mr.
need to be
Fuda
living
said,
in a-
we tried
Don't
that.
interrupt
Fuda
me.
has
Don't talk
FEMA
over
has
me.
tried that in
Don't
the
talk
past.
over me.
Why do you
Don't
do
talk
this
over me.
every
But
meeting?
you're talking about
Don't.
things that you don't know.
No.
I'm saying 10 years ago,
No.
these people were asked.
Were you
if
here
they
10
want-
years ago?
No, but I
Okay,
know
so
the facts
why-
because I was in executive session. I was in executive session.
Turn that down.
Why
Put it on
does this have
mute.
to happen every meeting?
It's unreal.
You
We
don't
were in
want
executive
information,
session. We've
you wanna
discussed all
argue.
this. You could have been.
Now, I'm gonna
You weren't.
explain something. First of all, FEMA is an insurance program. All they deal with is flood insurance. People who live in a certain area, if they need a loan, the lending institution will require them to have flood insurance. That's what FEMA's about. Those 200 homes, most people aren't going out for a loan. Most of them own those homes. Those are 30 years and above. Most of those homes are owned now by somebody. The problem will arise if they want to sell a home.
Right.
The lender may require them to have flood insurance. This is what it's all about. I've
they
dealt
need a
with that as a
flood
councilman in
insurance.
Niles. We had people in a flood area. We were able to remove 120 people from the flood insurance program because of the rules and regulations. I dealt with that for years. But it has nothing to do with your project. Your project is gonna deal with all those homes. The problem a homeowner will have is if they have to get a loan, second mortgage, or
That's
sell
what I
that
said.
home, the new person might have to have flood insurance. That's just what it's all about.
Okay.
That presents a terrible hardship for people, just
Mm-hmm.
coming from someone who's worked in real estate for 20 years.
And I agree wholeheartedly, and that was the entire discussion in executive session. So we retained an attorney. I suggest you talk to him.